Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Still joining you here on Nile TV International and our continued coverage of the 31st Arab Conference to take place in Algeria on Tuesday and Wednesday. And of course, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi arrived in Algeria to take part in the conference. The presidential spokesperson, Ambassador Bassam Radi, said that the president's participation in the event comes within the framework of his keenness on boosting ties with the brotherly Arab countries, as well as the continuing with the pivotal role to coordinate efforts for the interest of Arab peoples. He added that the conference aims to focus on means of preserving security and stability in the region. He also said Sisi's program in Algeria includes holding a number of bilateral meetings with Arab leaders over expanding ties and exchanging viewpoints over the latest developments on regional and international stages. And Algeria, of course, aims to demonstrate that the diplomatic clout as it is hosting the first Arab League conference, and the final resolution must be passed unanimously. We have more details in this report.
Algeria is hosting the 31st conference of the Arab League on Tuesday and Wednesday. This comes as the region battles to find common ground over a series of divisive issues. The 22-member Arab League last held its summit in 2019 before the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic. In the years since, new challenges have drastically reshaped the region's agenda, with the establishment of diplomatic ties between the Israelis and 4 more Arab League countries, as well as the fallout of the war in Ukraine. All those issues are expected to take center stage during Algeria's debut hosting of the event. Algeria is a major oil and gas producer and is perceived by European nations as a key supplier amid the global energy crisis. Chief among the event's discussion points will likely be the food and energy crises aggravated by the conflict in Eastern Europe. The crisis has had devastating consequences for a number of countries struggling to import enough wheat and fuel to satisfy their population. Also, the past month has seen the worst drought in several decades ravage swathes of Somalia, one of the Arab League's newer members, bringing some areas of the country to the brink of famine. Russia's reinforcement of its blockade on Ukraine's Black Sea ports on Sunday threatens to further escalate the crisis, with many Arab countries near solely dependent on Eastern European wheat exports. To the annoyance of Ukraine and its Western backers, the war has become a point of unity among Arab League members, with nearly all adopting a stance of neutrality. Other issues are likely to prove more divisive. The series of normalization agreements the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain and Morocco signed with the Israelis over the past 3 years have divided the region into 2 camps. Sudan has also agreed to establish ties with the Israelis. Algeria, among other League members, has remained fiercely opposed to the deals. 2 weeks ago, it hosted talks on a bid to end the Palestinian political divide and reconcile the Fatah Party, whose Palestinian Authority rules parts of the occupied West Bank, and the Hamas group, which has control of the Gaza Strip. The meeting also comes as tensions mount between Algeria and Morocco, with Algiers having severed diplomatic ties with its North Africa neighbor last year.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're now delighted to be joined over the telephone by His Excellency, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, the former Assistant of our Minister. It's a very good afternoon to you, Mr. Ambassador.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Fine, thank you, sir, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. And first and foremost, Mr. Ambassador, let me ask you, how do you see the timing of this Arab League conference? Of course, this event is being held at a very crucial time with the global dynamics, and the last time it was held was just before the coronavirus pandemic.
As a citizen, Egyptian citizen, and an old diplomat, I am so satisfied that at last we have this summit, because we are waiting for it since years, and it was delayed because of the corona and the international environment.
Yes.
Now we have the summit, and the fact that they are meeting in Algeria today, it means that we are on the right track, because we depend on our leaders in order to face what we are having of challenges on the international level,
yes,
such as the corona epidemic or the negative effect of the war in Ukraine, Also, we are keen to see how they are going to deal with the regional problems, whether it is Syria or Lebanon, Libya or Sudan or Yemen and so on, because we need really an Arab intervene in order to make sure that all the Arab countries are in good health.
Indeed.
And unfortunately, they are not. Now we need a sort of an honest arbitrator here. And there isn't any honest more than the Egyptians and the Algerian and the rest of the Arab world.
Indeed.
So I am looking positively to this meeting, looking forward for its results, inshallah.
Absolutely. Mr. Ambassador, the presidential spokesperson, Ambassador Bassem Radi, said, of course, that President Sisi's participation in this event comes within the framework of his keenness to boost ties with brotherly Arab countries and continue, the pivotal role of coordination between Arab nations, especially since the whole world, not just Arab nations, have become impacted by the latest happenings all around the world, whether it's the or the coronavirus pandemic, as well as the Ukrainian-Russian war. How do you see the importance of, coming to a unified stance for Arab nations in this regard?
Very important, and we have a story of success lately during the summit meeting in Jeddah, when 9 Arab leaders met the American president, and they told him openly that he is proposing to us the wrong enemy, saying that the Arabs need a sort of NATO against Iran. And we said, no, Iran is not the enemy who's occupying the Palestinian territory and make our brothers in Palestine suffering the result of this occupation. And the good result that the American president changed his position and he asked for the two-state solution. This is a very recent example of how successful is the Arab solidarity, that the Arab can build a sort of Arab front which we shall be satisfied politically, security-wise, and economic-wise also.
Indeed. Tell me, Mr. Ambassador, in your opinion, what do Arab nations need to do in order to deal with the impact of the Ukrainian crisis on Arab economies, especially now with the whole world struggling as a result of this war?
We have two negative problems here. First is the food crisis, because Russia and Ukraine are main producer and supplier of cereals and foods, and here we succeeded to change the supplier. The other problem, we have a positive position there, which is the energy, because after all, most of us we are producers of energy. Look to Egypt now. We started to build electric line between Egypt and Europe. We shall supply Europe with electricity. We have supplied some European countries with gas. Also, other Arab countries like Qatar is ready to send its gas to Europe. So here we benefit from this problem. And of course, everybody is looking to the Arab dimension as a good element in solving the world problems, inshallah.
Indeed. Mr. Ambassador, now, of course, one of the main issues topping the agenda is the Palestinian issue. And what are your expectations for consensus over the Palestinian case?
The consensus is to support the Palestinian stand in their own country, to make them stay in their own country and do not abide to the not to abide to the elements of sending them away from their country. Of course, the Palestinians, they need financial support, and the good element is that most of the Arab countries are supporting the Palestinian Authority. Europe itself, the European Union, is one main supplier of finance to the Palestinian Authority. So, in my opinion, that in the long term, that Palestinians shall win their cause if they just stay in their own country and refusing any efforts to send them away. So we are rather optimistic than pessimistic, and just we need the Palestinians to believe in their cause, to believe that we are not at all rest silent while they are suffering.
Absolutely. Now, in the past month, Mr. Ambassador, one of the worst droughts in several decades has really ravaged areas of Somalia, one of the Arab League's new members. This has brought the country to, some areas on the brink of famine, really. What decisions do you expect to be taken to deal with this crisis, especially now that it is one of the newest members of the Arab League?
We have in many Arab countries this problem that they feel that they belong to the tribe or the party rather than to the united country. This you have seen. We are seeing now in Libya. We are seeing in Lebanon, in Sudan, in Yemen, and in Somalia. And our task is to be a good arbitrator, a good balance between all those tribes and parties, to make them to be aware that to have one united country will give all of them better results than having their party or their tribe. So it's not an easy task because this is a long story. We thank God that we don't have this problem in Egypt, because I am Egyptian. If I am from Alexandria or you are from Aswan or Red Sea, anywhere, we are Egyptians before everything and above everything.
Absolutely.
This we have to bring to Somalia, to Yemen, to Syria, to Lebanon, and to Libya also.
Indeed, absolutely. Your Excellency, Mr. Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, the former Assistant Foreign Minister, I'd like to thank you very, very much for your time and your insight, and to continue with more news coming from the African continent. Sudanese oil refinery in Khartoum has resumed operations after a brief stoppage following a reported act of vandalism on a pipeline. We have the details.
An oil refinery in the Sudanese capital of Khartoum resumed operations following a brief halt due to an act of sabotage on one of its pipelines. State-run media reported the resumption on Monday. According to the Sunan news agency, the pipeline was forced to stop for a limited period due to a stoppage of the crude carrier line. The report did not elaborate when the reported sabotage took place or what it entailed. It said all pipelines were back working now. The report comes as Sudan's ruling generals and the pro-democracy movement's main factions continue negotiations toward finding a political settlement.
Finally, with the news this week is Ethiopia is to witness extended talks between the Ethiopian warring sides in Tigray. This came as the country's prime minister complained from lots of intervention in this process. We have more details in this story.
Peace talks between warring sides on Ethiopia's Tigray conflict have been extended into this week, while the country's prime minister complained in comments broadcast Monday about lots of intervention from left and right in the process. An official familiar with the arrangements for the talks confirmed that discussions continued in South Africa between Ethiopia's federal government and representatives from the northern Tigray region. The first formal peace talks began last week. The African Union-led talks seek a cessation of hostilities in a war that the United States asserts has killed up to hundreds of thousands of people, an estimate made by some academics and health workers. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, speaking to the China television network, said his government is working towards peace, adding that Ethiopians can solve matters by themselves. He also said Ethiopian forces were in control of the Tigray towns of Shire, Aksum, and Adwa. Neighboring Eritrea, whose forces are fighting alongside Ethiopian ones, is not a party to the peace talks. Witnesses have said that Eritreans were killing civilians even after the talks began. The fighting, which resumed in August after a months-long lull, has been marked by guerrilla-style warfare by Tigray forces and drone strikes by Ethiopian ones that witnesses have said have killed civilians.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, we wrap up our coverage here on Now TV International, but do stay for more coming your way.